Warning, the following video has flashing lights and also includes content that may be deemed inappropriate for some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Jesus Nunez, yes, once again, you have found your way into the darkness of the Fox Den as we again link up for another episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on LordeStarfox Radio. Yeah, I am so hungry. I really do need to feed. Absolutely delicious. Thank you for allowing me to replenish lost nutrients. Yes, and now, without further ado, it is time for Jesus and myself to take a walk into the madness known as the Dogman.
Stood up. I said, oh my god, it's a werewolf. And everybody in the car freaked out.
Welcome back to Midnight Lycanthropy here on LordeStarfox Radio. We have a friend of mine who actually was one of the first people to submit an encounter to me. Yes, he is an OG and has decided to again sit down and spend some time with us. Hey Zeus, how you doing, man?
Good. How are you?
It's been really busy, my friend, which is a good thing. Been watching some hockey in between editing. I'm a big hockey guy being up here in New England. Sadly for me, the Boston Bruins were butt cheeks this year, so I'm pretending in my head that they were in the playoffs. Same thing with the University of Maine Black Bears. We were ranked number 1 in the nation going into the NCAA hockey tournament, and we got our wheels blown off in the first round. Yeah, it is what it is. Besides that, though, doing good, man.
I definitely feel you because I'm a Cowboys fan, and well, you know how that is.
That's funny. Yeah, I'm a big football guy too. That's my second favorite sport. And again, the Patriots are butt cheeks, so I'm with you, dude. How you been though? What have you been up to, man?
I've been good. Just been working, and more working. You know, there's really not much of an option when you are just trying to make a living.
Yeah,
you know,
preach on that.
You just gotta get it. You know.
I hear you, my friend. You'll get there. Just got to keep putting in the work, no matter what it is. Like I tell my audience or any of my friends, I'll use myself for an example as a journalist trying to conquer my goals here on YouTube and such. Hey, at points in time, it seems like you're pushing a boulder up an icy hill, but then all of a sudden, all these people that love what you do come out of nowhere, and then that boulder isn't so hard anymore. I mean, it's still the same boulder, but you got people that are like, wait a second, you're doing great things.
I don't think that anything beats work and consistency. So if you just keep on doing what you're doing, you will get to where you're getting to. That's just how math works. Just gotta keep on getting it.
Again, very well spoken. Excellent. To the audience tonight, Jesus is going to dive into some pretty interesting things that he thinks could be occurring with the Dogman, also touching base on some of the examples that he's done on his limited free time when he has had some time to dive into this subject. We have already previously dove into his gnarly encounter that occurred down in Texas. You can check it out down below in the playlist, or you just type in his name and you're going to see some other podcasts that he's been on as well. So we don't need to dive into that fully word for word, because Jesus is a busy individual. Times before, when I referred to a friend of mine that was down in Texas, that got a phone call from a friend of his that hit what they believed was a large baboon. Yes, you've heard me tell this encounter numerous times here on Midnight Lycanthropy. Well, guess who informed me of that? Good old Jesus. So tonight, yes, we're going to try to dive into this topic a little bit more and get some clarity. How have you been when it comes to cryptids and things? Have you spent any time really digging up things, or you just been so busy, man?
No, I try to stay away, because it's just like going into more. You always come up short, and you're always just there's more questions than answers. I respect your work because you're always on it, and that's that's pretty cool. But I myself, I'm just like, man, there's just so many possibilities and just so much stuff that it just makes you realize how small we really are. We're just nobodies, man. There's a whole bunch of stuff out there.
Again, preach, man. I was saying that the other night on a podcast, actually with good old Jessica Jones, one of my sidekicks that comes on here. She was asking me my thoughts on the subject now and where I stand. And my honest answer to her and everybody else is, I have a better team with me now. I have a great science team. I have a ton of knowledge, a ton of hypotheses and theories. Yet back at the starting point, I'm just as confused as I was before, meaning I don't have answers. I still don't know. Is it paranormal? Is it physical? Is it extraterrestrial? I really don't have a solid answer.
You could have a team of specialists studying something, but you're not gonna grab all those 7 people and just go out there and just see it or see something. And most of the people that have these encounters that run across stuff like this, they're not the scientists. They're not biologists. They're just regular old people that sometimes they're not used to seeing like animals or creatures or they don't have no knowledge of what even what type of animals are native to the where they live, to the surroundings. I had I was once talking, and I talked to a whole bunch of folks, and here up north in the panhandle of Texas, I was talking to a friend of mine, and she come in one morning at work, and she's like, "Man, I just seen a bear." She was 100% sure that, you know, that she'd seen a bear, and I was trying to tell her like, "Hey, there's no bear here. There's not. They're not native to this area. There hasn't been one. There hasn't been one recorded in this area in over 70 years." So, and then some other people's like, "Hey, I just seen a baboon. The baboon lady." Some people just they're not used to seeing stuff and putting together like just putting together what you see is that's hard in itself. Like, just not gonna
Yep.
go out there and tell somebody who, "Hey, this is what I seen," because nobody gonna believe you. So a lot of this stuff people see, but they won't tell. It's just tough to do what you guys do, and that's pretty cool of you guys to keep on keeping on.
Again, totally appreciate you and the kind words, man. It's one of those things that every time, you help somebody, it's a payoff, meaning when you're able to help individuals find missing people and such, well, unfortunately, you would always prefer that they were still with us kicking. Yet sometimes they're not, but still, just being able to help people get closure on things is a payoff in general right there. But it's also a good mesh for me, meaning I've always been extremely creative and artistic, yet I didn't really know how to put my graphics designer aspects into play with my journalist aspects. And then I was presented such a brilliant opportunity to, well, collaborate and be part of the North American Dogman project, start working on what I'm working on now. And then it just all made sense. I needed to help people while helping myself. And I was able to do that by what I covered here, but then also create art and be creative and do things that are mine. Meaning when you create a podcast, well, that's your creation, you know?
Heck yeah. Yes. I'm glad that you are finding what you do and makes you happy. Keep on keeping on, man. There's nothing like helping people. There's nothing more rewarding than just helping people.
Yep.
Sometimes it's just talking about it. Like I told you, like I just mentioned, it's some people just never talk about it. Hey, I'm not gonna ever tell nobody. Ain't nobody gonna believe me if tell somebody. They're just gonna call me crazy. So I'll just keep it to myself. And you'd be surprised how many people, once you start talking, like, oh, I just I just seen this, and I just you try to make sense of it, and you just end up saying, well, I'm just gonna say I seen a bear, or it was a hyena. I seen a hyena. I'm just gonna say it's a hyena. They'll go on about their life. You'll never know.
Isn't that the truth, my friend? No, it's super important. That's why I try to just have the experts and people that can just deal with different divisions, meaning we do believe there are hyenas involved, also some sort of prehistoric large baboons like the Dinopithecus, also another ape like the Pteropithecus that really didn't go extinct too long ago, that have no reason to be extinct. Same thing with the short-faced cave bear. And then when you look at like these places where people are missing near caves, well, cave hyenas and short-faced cave bears spend the majority of their time in caves. And what do we know the least about? We know less about the caves than we do outer space and the ocean, and we know nothing about either one of those.
That is right. That is nothing but the truth right there. And caves and river bottoms. River bottoms have caves.
Mm-hmm.
There's it's just it always brings me back to like when people were settling. They headed out west and like, hey, we're gonna settle. And the dude that was in charge of like, you know, putting down all these animals that he's seen on a list, like, why would they stop at a wolf, or why would they stop at the a mountain lion? And they just said, hey, that's as far as we're gonna go. You know, why would they do that? So just to have settlers come in, and it's just question after question after question.
I wish I had a great answer for you, but I honestly just think at the end of the day, the majority of people cannot handle adversity. All right, if you look back in the past, well, remember War of the Worlds? That was done. It was basically a book that was completely written for entertainment. I can't remember the author, which I'm probably going to get slapped for by somebody in the comment section. Either way, though, they were reading it over the airwaves, okay? Yet people tuned in and thought it was real reporters talking about the end of the world, and they started doing absolutely insane stuff. Like, yeah, total pandemonium, but it was only entertainment.
Right.
The majority of people just want to go to work, come home, be with their family, repeat. They don't want to try to understand or process, well, potentially what's really occurring. It's too much for them to fathom. All right. So if you were to, again, just tell people, like, hey, yeah, in our national parks, areas that we love and are beautiful, just like you folks think, there are serial unalivers, there are feral people, there are gargantuous ape human potential beings known as Bigfoot, there are Dogman, but yet we can't stop any of them from ripping you apart and taking you away. Come camp with us today. They would just panic. It would be absolutely chaos just because,
Right.
again,
Right.
yeah, people can't handle that. It's unfortunate. It is what it is. If you look at war, which is horrible on every level, there are just some people that can handle the madness, think clearly, while others just panic.
Right. It's right. Some people can't put it together.
Yes, that's just my thoughts on it, unfortunately, because time and time again, you just see, yeah, the mass majorities can't handle adversity. Adversity is a tough thing, man. I mean, I've been there in life before too, where I didn't handle adversity the best. I'd like to think I'm better at it now, but I probably still am not the best at it. At the end of the day, whether people like to say it or not, yeah, it's great to work for your goals, yet it also takes a lot out of you. I mean, every time I haven't succeeded at something I wanted to and had to burn it all down and then try to fix it and make myself better, it's like smashing a mirror and then you put it back together. You just lose pieces, man. I mean, yeah, you become better as you evolve. Yeah, at the end of the day, I'm not going to sit here and put on a front. If somebody was to have handed me opportunities, money, education, I and anybody else would be a fool not to take that opportunity. Yet, sadly, it just doesn't always work like that for everybody, you know?
Right.
I wanted to touch base on when you saw this creature during your encounter, do you feel like it looked more ape cattish? The reason I ask is because we have reports of something called a clickatat ape cat, which is reported to look as reported like a baboon like cat. Or do you feel like it looked more canine and feline? Or do you think it looked traditionally canine? The reason I'm asking is just to, in my head, try to figure out with some of the other reports we've had.
No, what I seen was a, a humongous dog, a man with, or a woman. I mean, it was human-like,
Mm-hmm.
but I would say it was just beautiful eyes. I'm an eye guy, and I've never seen eyes like those eyes. They were just I don't know if like when you have a beer,
Mm-hmm.
a light beer, and then you put it in a clear bottle or a glass, and you put it up against the sun. It was yellowish,
Like a Corona
dark,
color. I've heard that before. Yes.
and it was just pretty. It was just pretty, big, pretty eyes, like a tennis ball size, and they had a whole bunch of feeling in it. My encounter wasn't a vicious, scary encounter.
That's what I was going to ask you next. How you felt?
My no, I I felt completely just dumbfounded. Just like I was there, and I wasn't. That's not what I signed up for. That's not what I was hunting. Now, I was initially looking for a large cat. Um, I had some of my game birds torn apart, and when I began to investigate this, I uh, I shot out messages on Messenger, and people just began to message me, and I would pin drop the place where it was, and it happened to be around town, and this town has multiple rivers. They're dry rivers, and there's creek bottoms, and they're all dry. It's in the high plains of Texas, and so there's no the plains. There's nothing. There's just grasslands, and so these people had seen, and everybody had this different description. Some lady said she plowed over a baboon, a monkey, a large monkey. Some other people, some lady said she'd seen a black lion. Uh, there was this couple that they're like, there was no doubt in our minds this was a standing dog on two legs. Um, Cowboy that lives way out in the boondocks. There's lake bottoms, and wherever there's lake bottoms or old where there was water, there's trees, thick trees, or the river bottoms, and you could see, out of all this grassland, you could tell where there's water, or where water goes because of the trees, and he's next to a lake bottom, and he'd say, "Hey man, there's a dude that leans over those trees, and he just looks this way. It's a big old giant guy." And when I try to glass him with my binos or my rifle scope, you know, he's no longer there. So it's just people, again, people, they didn't grow up studying animals, so they have a different view or outlook of what they may or may have not seen, and it's something totally different in regards to what their eyes showed them. you know I was looking for this creature, and I positioned myself to where there was a path there. You could tell there was a clear path to the river from this like caves, this this pool of caliche where water sits, and it's just it's a water runoff that turned into caves. And at certain parts of the year, the weeds, it's very thick. It's very thick in there. And so I would hear these dogs. Told myself, hey, at sundown, these dogs go crazy on that side of town. I'm gonna go where these dogs are at. And by this time, I had already made my mind up that I'm looking for this large cat. This large cat goes around town, it's about 40, 50-mile radius, and it just goes snacks on these cattle. There's a whole bunch of cattle farms and cattle feed yards around town. There's river bottoms. There's this cat is just going through the river bottoms into cornfields, snatching up a baby calf and snacking on it, and then it goes on to the next one, and to the next one, and to the next one. Now, again, these night watchmen that watch these cattle overnight, they've mentioned as well that like, hey, there's a giant wolf out. And when I asked these people, they would say this wolf's the size of a Volkswagen, a small car. And these people that never, Central American people, they don't know, I guess, any other thing to compare it. So I choose a day and I go out there and I'm armed, and I lay on this path to where I've visualized this thing for about 2 weeks, where the dogs, would bark, and I had my friend go up on the top ledge and throw big boulders inside that water runoff and just make as much noise as he possibly could. And I was going to position myself where that path, where that was his own, that was it, the only way an animal could evade not being seen would be through there. And that's where I was. That's where I positioned myself. When this thing started moving, it was not a cat, or the size of a cat. Or when you step on leaves, on dry leaves, say you're walking home from school, and there's leaves, it's fall, you could tell there's somebody walking behind you because the crunching of the leaves or twigs or grass if you're out in the woods. But this was something massive, this like something that had weight behind it, like a horse or a cow. This was heavy. This was a extremely heavy animal, and that's when I knew, like, this is no cat. There's no way it could be a cat. And then I began to get a visual, and it was just pitch, silky, beautiful black coat. And then I guess it sensed me, and it went into stealth mode to where it was just quiet. I could still see it, and I was making out vitals because I was gonna have a clear shot. He was gonna have to go through an opening that was about 7 or 8 feet in front of me, and then it was about a 4 to 5 foot window to where I had a clear shot, and I was gonna shoot this thing. I started seeing vitals. I made out a head, and when it came to the clearing, it just straight up just stood in front of me, stood there, and looked at me, and I looked at it, and it was not a cat. To me, I was looking at a person.
Dang.
It was like a person. I couldn't shoot it. I couldn't shoot it. I wasn't gonna be right if I shot it. I wasn't gonna be right. I was gonna commit if I did that, and I didn't shoot it. It had too much knowledge and compassion in its eyes for me to shoot it. But it was pretty eyes. It had just pretty eyes and silky black coat. I don't know if it was a male or female, but it didn't uh it didn't snarl, or it didn't do nothing. It knew that I could hurt it, and I knew it could hurt me. I mean, it was just we just sat there and looked at each other, and I put I put my rifle down, and I didn't shoot it. I didn't feel I didn't feel threatened. I just felt compassion, like if man, you got me, dude. Like, oh, if you need me out of here, I'll get out of here. Just let me walk away. And I let it walk away. I don't know how long I looked at it, but we just looked at each other, and then it walked away, and I walked away. I don't think I told anybody for about a year, and then I began to talk. I asked my dad, and we'd cruise around that same spot, and I would tell him, hey, I seen hombre lobo. Hombre lobo is like a wolf man. I seen hombre lobo, And he finally told me, well, one day I was cruising through here and I looked into the riverbed and there was a I seen a man. I seen a massive man, bodybuilder man with coveralls. He said coveralls because it was just black. So he went on and cruised, checked the water for for the livestock because it was winter time, so he'd cruise through there and he'd check the water, break the ice and stuff like that for the livestock. But whenever it was time for him to, head back, he's like, man, I just got this dread. Like, I'm not gonna drive through there. Not today, not right now. And he just, instead of shortcutting it, he took the long way. He took the long way for a long time. He hadn't told me why until then. It's a park. It's a park where, you know, it's a park. You'd at least expect it. One of my brother's nephew-in-laws, they'd go and take pictures on holidays. It's nice. It's a nice little park. And this kid, he swore up and down that like, hey, there's a bear. There's a bear in there. Like, there ain't no bear, dude. It's a park right south of the city. In the city, like, how could there be? Like, there ain't no bear. That dude he never visited town again. That was his first. That was his last time he was. But if you don't pay attention to these things, you could. These things are so fast that you'd like if it just ran. Like if you're driving and this thing just decided to run in front of you, and you're not like actually on it, you'd think it's like a dragonfly. These things are just fast, like a flash. You wouldn't think anything of it unless you're fixed on it. Like, hey, that what is that? But a lot of people, they're not avid hunters, or they don't have the eye to to be looking out like that, I guess. What I seen it was a dog man. It was, I don't know how else or what else it a lot of people say, oh, dogman's vicious and this and that, but not this one. Not this one. This one was not angry. I woke it from its sleep, and it decided not to be mad at me. It decided to just walk away, and I walked away. Never seen anything like it. I just felt lucky to be able to see a creature like that, to know that they exist. No, I didn't have any. Just shocked. There's no. Just shocked. Just completely, just in awe. Just wow. There's no words. You know. My nephew, and this is thing. I guess they go by seasons. Corn season, where you have a field. You have multiple acres of standing corn. Corn could be up from 8 to 12 feet tall. And you have a field of 2,000 to 3,000 acres worth of that. You're not gonna find anything in there. It's easy to move around in that, and it's easy to travel through. Harvest season. You have harvest season, and there's a whole bunch of corn left. And well, there's high protein. Corn's high protein, and deer and hogs eat corn, and there's just a lot of food accessible for that before you really have to hit the winter. You know, the winter hits hard, and there's no food, but yeah, you just pack down on all that protein, and you're hoping it probably gets you through the winter. But there's people that have seen it out here. They just ain't telling.
Dag. That
Yeah.
is all some nightmare fuel right there, my guy. Thanks for indulging us with that information. That's some pretty intriguing stuff with a ton of acute details. Again, like you had previously mentioned, this whole subject is just really bizarre for sure. Yet it is super interesting because I do find myself super intrigued by what's occurring. Yet I just wish I had a little bit more of a grasp on it. As we are starting to tie this up a little bit, I was wondering if after your friend told you she had hit that baboon, did you get a chance to go back to that scene where she had hit that yourself, or did you only speak to her?
I traveled through there, and it's not a road that I normally travel. I had to go out of the way to travel, but it's just a desolate farm to market road. 2-lane highway, um, with cornfields on both sides. You know, and then you have the plains, the high plains of Texas. There's just trees, but then also you have multiple dairies and feed yards that have large amounts of cattle there. Now, speaking to people, there was a childhood friend that I was talking to, and that I seen him after many years. I learned that he was living in that area because his dad would run a feed yard, and that feed yard had housing there. Or once we started talking, he's like, "Man, there's this giant like hole in the ground to where it looked like it had been concreted over. If it was on purpose or what it was, but he's like, man, we were told, hey, we do not go there. We know they people go burn trash there." And he'd said that him and his oldest brother, walking at night once, that his brother seen el diablo. He's seen the devil, and so they told the parents and everything, and they were like, "Well, that's exactly why we told y'all to stay away from there."
Hmm.
So the more you dig into it, you find like people have uh, have had some kind of encounter, or know somebody that has, and that was in the same area. Farm to market road is just it's a narrow road. There's no shoulder on it. There's no, there's a house here, and every once in a while there's no trees. It's the high plains of the Texas Panhandle. There's no trees, but there's a whole bunch of farmland to where there's corn circles, just an irrigation pipe that goes in a circle, and they grow corn, and these are huge. And then a farmhouse here every once in a while. That's outside of town. You know, Inside of towns, where in the park where a creek would run through. That's where I jumped this thing out of his sleep. You know.
Jeez, son. So creepy, man. Again, though, super informative information, which is what we really need. Also, it's why I wanted to sit down with you again, man, and get a chance to just hear your thoughts on all this. Again, straight up gnarly stuff for sure, my friend. Well, is there anything else you would like to touch base on tonight before we let you get back to things you need to attend to?
No, I'm pretty much at peace. I'm at peace with you and everybody, and I'm good.
Excellent. I do appreciate that. yet. If you ever do have any more questions or any new experiences, hopefully not to you, but if you do gather any cool reports or hear of anything, I mean, definitely send them my way up so that way we can try to get you back on if need be or help bring some
Okay.
clarity to the topic.
I'll mention it to my nephew
Heck yeah.
and my cousin, the the hoggers, you know,
Hmm.
and I'll see if they could give you a shout.
That would be beautiful, my friend. I mean, if you trust them, I trust you. You can pass on my phone number or give them my Facebook. Whatever works
Okay.
for sure, my guy. Excellent stuff.
That'll work, man. Heck yeah.
My creatures of the night. Yes, this will be the conclusion of the meeting of the Midnight Society for the early hours of the morning. Jesus is a very busy individual. Yes, I do get to talk to him quite often, yet you, as the audience, do not. So it was excellent for him to allot some of his time to us. Unfortunately, for the moment, yes, he has other things he needs to attend to. No worries, though. Check out the playlist down below that will be created with our previous episode. Also, make sure to be on the lookout because we will have Jesus back here sooner than later. Until then, though, yes, I do fear the sunlight, so I myself need to go hide. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight, my friend.
All right, man. That'll work. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my creatures of the night, you legends, you I do adore every single one of you. And thank you for hanging out tonight. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share the truth to the algorithm.